All right, welcome back in another session of Tom's Talks. And today we are really happy to have Bill Wennington, the current Chicago Bulls radio analyst on the Bulls Radio Network, and a longtime NBA player, former St. John's player, and of course a member, a three-time champion with the Chicago Bulls. And he has been working around the clock all of a sudden with these interviews about the last dance. So Bill, thank you so much for joining me. And people are just loving this series. It's really one of the most talked about things in sports because it's so dramatic, and it's Michael Jordan and that Bulls. That was a special time, and you were part of it. So you must really enjoy it. I mean, it's not like you're the Buffalo Bills where you went 0 for 4, the Vikings in football years ago where they made you won the championship. So you must be reveling a little bit in this as well.
It is a lot of fun, and I think part of it also is the timing of it with obviously the COVID-19 going on, and there are no sports. There's just not a lot to watch sports-wise on TV right now, and it definitely has been fun, and I think I hope that it can quench the thirst for sports a little bit, and also quench maybe a little bit of the GOAT conversation with who's the best. And of course, obviously, I'm very biased with Michael, because I really believe he is. He's the best that I've seen and best that I've played against before I got to the Bulls. And then once I got to play with him, saw why he was that good. And it's been phenomenal for me. Great trip down memory lane, Tom.
I bet. And just to be able to watch it on national television with millions of people and see yourself with John Cusack or getting a cup of coffee at MSG in the locker room. And those are the episodes last night in 5 and 6. I mean, what a treat it must be to, like you say, a trip down memory lane. You must get goosebumps every now and then.
A little bit. I don't know if I get quite goosebumps, but it is a lot of fun because you remember the good times we had and how hard we worked in practice to get where we were. And you've seen it in the episodes, especially the first 4. You know, Michael is a driving force, and if you weren't pulling your weight, he was going to push you. And I liked that. I thrived in that atmosphere. I had coaches that did that to me in high school, and obviously at St. John's with Coach Kanaseca, and it was very good for me. So I understood exactly what he was doing, and obviously it worked real well for everyone because he won the 3 championships there with us.
Well, he was so driven, and like had that edge. Will Purdue had an interesting comment after you won the 91 championship, and I know that wasn't, you weren't on those teams, but they saw Michael crying with the trophy, and he's like, we never really saw him emote like that, because we only saw the drive and the anger and the frustration. So I mean, obviously, and everybody talks about Michael can be very down to earth, but it just shows you that when he was in the gym, to your point, he was going to make sure everybody gave it 100% and was executing and doing what they were told.
It was like an on-off switch, and the switch was turned on in training camp. Actually, for him before that, while he was training, get ready for training camp, and it wasn't turned off till the championship was won, and you didn't see it after. I mean, you got to see it a little bit if you hung out with him, where he was down to earth and just a great guy and fun to be around and a good teammate. But during the season, he was pushing you. He was pushing everyone to be the best because he wanted to win. There was no other goal or agenda that he had. It was just to win. And if you weren't doing your job or enough to help him win, he had no use for you, and he was going to make your life miserable. And I always liken it to a teacher in school when they're pushing you and they're driving you, and all of a sudden when they give up, they stop talking to you. And if that happens, you knew you were in trouble with Michael.
Right.
But as long as he was pushing you and getting on you, you knew that you still had purpose, and he still thought that you could do it. You just had to push yourself a little harder to do it more consistently.
So with yourself and Coach Kerr, Steve Kerr, and Judd Buechler, and maybe Pax, you guys, were on the same bus and in that same world. But when you watched everything that went around at the hotel, leaving the arena, and the whole what existed with people wanting to get a see and get around Michael Jordan, you must have just been looking out into the world, and it's just an incredible, like, wow, this is amazing.
It really was amazing. There were just so many people that wanted to be around the Bulls and just get a glimpse of Michael and what he was doing. One story I like to tell is we were in Utah at Thanksgiving, and after our team dinner, and you've been away with the team. The team always has a nice spread put out, so you have a nice Thanksgiving dinner. You celebrate it as a team. And after the meal, we decided we all wanted to go to a movie. So we all went down to the movie theater. I think the movie started around 5 o'clock, which is an early show on Thanksgiving. So there was no one in the theater. We were seeing the first show of the day, and it was empty. So we all walked in, and there were probably about 10 of us. Michael, Scotty, Luke Longley, Steve Kerr, Dickie Simpkins, Randy Brown, Tony Kukoc, and I believe Steve Kerr was there, and Judd Bushler was there. But anyway, it was almost like the whole team went, pretty much everyone. So we get to the movie, great movie. As we're leaving, the theater is now packed. Lines out the door, not because we're there, but because the movies are in and everyone wants to come to the 7 o'clock show. Well, when they see Michael walk out, I kid you not, the whole theater followed us back to the hotel. We're about 4 or 5 blocks from the hotel, and everyone was following us. And Michael and Scotty had their security guards with us. This is about four security guards. But it ended up Luke, myself, and Tony were keeping fans away from Michael and being extra security. But by the way, Michael still hasn't paid me for that. But just to keep the fans away, because it was crazy. Right. They walked all the way back to the hotel with us, hung out in the front door for a little bit to see if Michael was coming back out, and then had to hurry back to go to the movie, which already was starting, and they were late for the movie. But they were willing to miss the movie that they were going to go see just to follow and see if they can get close to Michael. And it was like that everywhere we went. Unbelievable.
What was it like to watch the performances and to be on the team and setting screens for them and giving goes and running the triangle and the incredible feats, not just in the playoffs, but to watch, as you say, the greatest player in the game, in your opinion, mine too, take to the court like that and achieve that greatness and score those points and drive you guys to victory?
Well, I'm going to ruffle your feathers a little bit. The advantage that we had is that we practiced with Mike every day, and Mike practiced hard every day. So contrary to Allen Iverson, who really doesn't need to practice, nor does Michael Jordan need to practice. The problem is I need to practice with Michael Jordan because when he's on the floor, it's totally different. So in the games, it was another practice because we had done this in practice thousands of times, and we've pushed ourselves. And because of Michael, we practiced hard. So it was really was a game in practice, because the best part of being on that team was after practice and the kibitzing that the guys had, ribbing each other, poking each other on who got burned in practice, who did well, who made a nice shot, who got dunked on, and all those things. And Michael's competitive spirit kept that going. So games, it was just second nature to us because we'd gone through practice, and which was very much like a game situation for us.
But okay, then in the playoffs, in the championships, when he was pushing you over the hump, because it's not easy. 6 championships. I mean, none of those games, and we all know playoff games are so hard to win, particularly on the road, and watching the swooping and the driving and knowing that the magic carpet ride was about you guys were going to get to your destination, and just to look and high five your teammates. That had to be special, whether you've seen it in practice, to watch it in front of 20,000 people at the United Center or on the road. That had to be extra special.
It was very special. But what he did in games, what he was doing in practice every day. So I don't know. I don't want to say I'm numb to it. It was phenomenal to watch. It really was, because it's one thing to do it against us in practice, but when you're doing it against the best in the NBA, right, in the playoffs, is absolutely phenomenal. But what is really special about him is just his confidence and the understanding that he had that he was not going to let us lose. There were several times where he'd get in the playoffs and said, okay, tough win, but don't worry about it. We're winning. In the finals, we lost in Utah. We come back home and said, don't worry, we're going to win the next game at home. It's done. Smoking a cigar, and just the confidence, it kind of just spread through the whole team, because we were a little, oh boy, they got this one. We're in trouble. But we went back to Utah and won the game. So he did stuff like that all the time. Whenever you had a little bit of doubt, he just picked it up and turned around. No, we're not losing that. We're going to go out and win.
And how about Phil Jackson orchestrating all this and keeping you guys together, and, with Michael being the superstar and bringing in that offense and all those things that helped you be a championship team?
Phil's the best coach I ever played for, and he does something better than anyone else does. And Tom, being around the NBA for so long, a lot of coaches are good coaches, and it's not necessarily your offense and your X's and O's, although that's very important. But it's how you relate to the players and how you get the players to buy into what you're doing. And Phil was absolutely the best at doing that. he had 12 egos on that team, and all 12 of those guys in college and high school were the alphas. They were the main guys on their team and play, except for me because I played with Chris Mullen at St. John. So I was used to being second fiddle. But other than that, but he still had to keep us happy, and he had the ability to read your body and how you're acting to pull you up just when you had enough, because everyone wants to play more. There's no one that is happy playing 5 minutes a game. There's no one. And if you are, then maybe that's probably why you're only playing 5 minutes a game. But everyone wants to play more. And every time I was ready to go into his office, he met me the day before and just said, hey, hang in there. You're playing great. You're doing well. We got big games coming up. Rick Smits in Indiana, Patrick Ewing in New York, Alonzo Mourning in Miami. We've got 3 big games coming up in the next 2 weeks. You got to be ready. You're doing well. Just hang in there. Keep going. You got any questions? And just talk to you. And he understood that, where a lot of coaches don't talk to you until there's a problem.
Right.
And it's too hard to fix. But also, he kept Michael and Scotty and Horace when Horace was here, and Dennis when Dennis was here, happy and content playing. And you saw he let Dennis go to Vegas for 48 hours, which is a little bit longer than 40 hours, but he understood that he had to keep Dennis happy. And Dennis was a little bit different than the rest of us and needed a little bit different line. So he let that happen and really managed it really well. And that's why he was the perfect coach at the right time for this team.
Last thought on the Last Dance and the Bulls, but 3 championships for you and that franchise and that team, to be at the end in June after 100-some games, all the ups and downs, the thrill of victory from Bill Wennington. What say you?
It was phenomenal. And you're talking about the 98 season, the last one?
Yep.
You know what? It was winning championships is phenomenal. When you reach the pinnacle of what you're trying to do and actually become the best at what you do is phenomenal. And albeit I was on the best team, part of those championships was great. But that last dance was really special because we all knew it was over. And Phil wasn't coming back. Michael wasn't coming back. And most likely the team would have been broken up. And it was. And Tim Floyd was already around. We had seen pictures, seen him in the stands actually with Jerry Krause, getting ready to come in the following year. So to win that last one, a goal that was set early in the season, like we always do, early in training camp, actually before training camp started, was absolutely fantastic because Phil made sure that we understood what was going on. And he actually even told us to look around and see what's happening on the outside. Because normally you're so focused, you got the blinders on. You just see the 12 guys and the coaches in front of you, and that's it. You don't want distractions. But Phil made sure that we paid attention to the fans that were coming to the game, paid attention to the arrivals at hotels where there's thousands of people waiting to see you at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it really was special because it put it all in a different perspective for us, just how much was going on around us and how much we affected the city of Chicago.
And for you, it wasn't always that way. In 1985, you were a first-round draft pick of the Dallas Mavericks. This is Reunion Arena. Donald Carter is the owner of the Mavericks. I'm sure your career didn't start off like that, correct?
I don't think very many careers start off like that where you're coming in, unless you're like Jason Caffey and you get drafted in 95, 96 and you join the Chicago Bulls, and that's the way it starts off. But no. Like everyone else, I went to actually a very good team in Dallas. In 1988, we went to the Western Conference Finals and lost in 7 games to the Lakers. But what happened in Chicago with the second three-peat that I was on never happens. And it was really a special event for all the players that were on the team in the city of Chicago. But the bonds that were made and created on that time is one of the best teams that I've been on, not just playing wise and winning wise, but people wise, and just how well everyone got along. Yeah, it was hard because we've pushed ourselves. It was going to work every day, and it was a job that we wanted to complete and finish. But the bonds are there and they're strong.
When you see Steve Kerr in San Francisco or Judd Buechler, he's been with the Knicks. What's it like to reconnect with some of these guys, like you say, because these are bonds that'll last a lifetime?
Oh, it's always great. And as you know, Tom, when you have good friends that you went through battles with like that, it's like we haven't missed a day. Like I haven't seen Steve Kerr now since a little over a year ago, but every time he comes to the United Center or I go out to Golden State with the Bulls, it's like we saw each other yesterday. Judd Bush was the same way. When you see them, these guys, you don't get to see them a whole lot because they don't live in Chicago, and I don't live. Well, Judd was up in New York, and Steve's out in San Francisco, but you don't get to see him a lot. But when you do, it's the connection is there, the bond is there. It's great to see each other, and you just start reliving great stories and also some new stories. What's been going on since then? Because when we were all here, we all had little kids. Now we all have adults, adult kids, and that's fun to catch up with those too.
When you go back, let's talk about your days in the Big East, because the Big East has come back with Villanova, and of course, one of the best teams, winning 2 championships in the NCAAs over the last 4 years. But you were, maybe that was the prime of the Big East, right there in the mid '80s with Chris Mullin. You mentioned Louis Carnesecca was your coach. A magical time in college basketball, and you were right in the middle of
it. That was fun, and honestly, that's really what prepared me to go to the NBA. And my first big exposure to the big stage, playing in Madison Square Garden in the Big East Finals, playing against Patrick Ewing for 4 years,
right.
Really helped me develop and made me understand that how hard I had to work if I wanted to continue in a basketball career, and just a lot of fun. And one of the stories I like to tell about the Big East was it wasn't even after '85 when the Bulls went to the Final Four and Villanova ended up beating Georgetown. It was '84. We're in Los Angeles in the Olympics, and I was with my team, with Team Canada playing, and we'd be walking around the streets in Los Angeles, and people would be stopping me going, "Bill, oh, how you doing, Bill? What's going on? What are you doing?" All my Canadian teammates were looking at me. How does everybody know you here? You live on the East Coast. It's 4,000 miles away.
Right.
It's like, dude, I play in the Big East. We were on Big East Game of the Week every week. So they've all seen me on TV. And it was that big back then, the Big East, and it was phenomenal playing. Great teams, great players. Villanova, Eddie Pickney, Raleigh Massimino, great coach. John Thompson, great coach. Just a lot of fun to be part of that.
You mentioned your high school coach. You went to school. You grew up in Montreal, but you went to school on Long Island. Is it the same Bob McKillop who was Steph Curry's coach at Davidson?
Absolutely. Say Bob McKillop just called me last month for my birthday. Still staying in touch with Bob. He's had a great career at Davidson. Got that program back to what it was back in the early 70s. And obviously Steph Curry's coach, and just a great man, great coach, a father figure, helped me growing up, helped me become the man that I am today with his teachings, both on and off the court, and really strive to make me a better player. But I owe him a heck load of gratitude because he really helped me get where I am.
You come from Montreal, and now Canadian basketball with so many young, talented players in the NBA, but not so much back then. You were kind of one of the first people that came down to the States and played and made a real good career of it, right?
Yeah, it was really hard to play basketball as a kid in Canada because there were no outdoor courts, and there was no youth leagues. Now everyone thinks about youth leagues. Guys don't play that much. The best players don't play that much outside anymore. They're playing in AAUs and gyms, practicing and everything. But back then you practiced outside, and there were no courts outside to practice in. So I belonged to a little YMCA league and played there and got my first exposure to basketball in those leagues there. But really, it was tough for guys to play. And it wasn't on TV because if the only thing that was on TV back then was hockey and baseball in the summertime. Excuse me. And we had the Montreal Expos in Montreal, and then the Blue Jays in Toronto. And that was pretty much it. But hockey was all you played. So not a lot of guys play. But now it's grown. Guys are playing all over the place. Not that there's so many more outdoor courts, but there are more outdoor courts now. But youth basketball has picked up in Canada, and it has grown by leaps and bounds. As you know, there's so many Canadians in the NBA, and one of the best big guys that ever played in Canada was Todd McCullough, was out in Philly with you guys. So a nice little fraternity we have, and it's always good to catch up with the Canadian players. But from when I started, when I went to St. John's in 1985 to all the guys that are in college in the States right now, it's mind-boggling.
Right. Well, a fellow Canadian, and speaking of your Chicago Bulls, now the new general manager of the Bulls from the 76ers, Mark Eversley, has taken the job. And, we'll talk a little bit about the Sixers in a moment, but he comes into a situation, you got a lot of young talent, and everybody was real fond of Mark here and know he's going to do a great job out there in Chicago.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Mark. I met him a couple of times just to say hello. Really haven't spent any time with him. Have not talked to him yet, and I don't think he's here in Chicago yet with the virus thing going on right now and traveling and everything. So have not had a chance to see him or welcome him here in Chicago, but very excited. Obviously, John Pax is a good friend of mine. John has kind of led us to believe that something like this would be happening for a little while now, and looking forward to going in a new direction, see what he can do, and get new minds, because it's difficult, Tom, as you know, when teams aren't doing well, you're trying to find the right answer, the right formula to get things back on track. And I've got some new minds coming in, and I like Mark a lot, and I've heard a lot of great things about him, and I'm looking forward to the changes here.
Now, I know you guys, as it turned out over the last 3 years, didn't see a lot of Embiid, but you did this year. And I know Furkan Korkmaz had a really good game. But when you get back into the NBA and you think a little bit about the Sixers and the talent on the ball club, what do you think of when you think of the Philadelphia 76ers?
Well, I think you got a game changer in Embiid, and I like his game a lot because I think he's very versatile. He can play outside, but more importantly, he can play inside right now. And he's the guy that you can't guard down low, because a lot of teams are going away from low post actions right now because analytics has taken over, and it's become a three-point shooting league where pretty much, Tom, you see it, every team's running the same thing. They're running a high screen roll, or they're running a dribble weave outside to get a matchup they want, and it's draw and kick, and everyone's going to shoot threes. Where Embiid can post up. And when you really think about it, when you got a 7-foot guy that's strong and has the footwork he had, who can guard him in the NBA today? When I played back in the 90s, you had Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal. Every team had at least one, if not two, 7-footers that could bang and pound on you. Well, if you put a 6'9" guy or a 6'8" guy on Embiid down low, he's going to score 70% of the time because his footwork and hands are so great down there. And if you put a big guy on him, then he can step out and hit some jump shots that maybe most big guys can't guard. So he's a guy that changes the numbers, at least I believe. And until you got more big guys who can do it, in my opinion, he's going to dominate for a long time because you just can't stop him with a 6'9" guy.
Bill, I thank you so much. I just asked you one last thing, but to stay around the game, and we both are in the game of radio broadcasting, if you will, must be a real treat to be able to stay in the NBA and travel around the league and just be able to watch this competition and lay your expertise, your commentary in that role as the analyst for the Bulls Radio.
Tom, it's absolutely fantastic. You're right. I love basketball. It's been great to me, and I talk about work and jobs, and it's not work. If you love what you're doing, it's not work. It's hard, and it is a job, but it's not work because you enjoy doing it. And I used the line from the late, great Johnny Red Kerr, who was my mentor and did TV for the Bulls for many years. And he said, we got the best job in the world. We get paid to watch and talk about basketball, and we get to go out afterwards and people buy us drinks in the bars to talk about it some more.
Right.
And it's true, and it's a great game to talk about, and I love the game. And when you talk to people about basketball, you get a lot of different perspectives on it and what's good and what's not, but it's definitely been a lot of fun and a great ride.
Well, you mentioned Johnny Ray Kerr, and I was telling you earlier that I just read his book, which not a lot of people are saying, but out of Chicago, Tilden Tech, played at the University of Illinois, played for the Syracuse Nationals, championship when he was a rookie, played for Philadelphia, and had a streak of over 800 consecutive games played. First coach of the Bulls, first coach of the Phoenix Suns, one of the true big guys early in his career. Johnny Ray Kerr was a legend at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And a great guy and a great, great friend. It was a tough loss for us here in Chicago when he passed, but just a phenomenal human being, and miss him dearly.
Well, Bill, we thank you so much. And I know you're doing a lot of this, so we appreciate it. Enjoy the last episodes, and hopefully we'll see you soon at an NBA arena. Take care, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tom. Always a pleasure.
All right, bud. Thank you.